Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod, our first edition of 2025, along with Mauricio Ruiz. I'm Cole Pepper. Tony Allegretti is with us, too.
That's what's up.
There we go.
2025, the year we play the game.
And the year that Tony comes in to the podcast.
Yes, at least once in 25.
We've got it. We checked it off the list.
You're batting 1,000 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect year.
I've never missed this year.
That's true. Coming up today on the pod, we're assessing the month to come for the U.S. men's and women's national teams, plus what to expect from the Premier League as the new year gets underway, and we hear from members of the Wolfson High School boys soccer team enjoying their best season in years. We are fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated, with locations in San Marco and Jax Beach. Make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for great barbecue and great times. There it is. He is bearded.
really not a convincing pig. I need to work on that.
You're very convincing as bearded, though.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
that's half the battle.
Some would argue.
Let's start with the men's and women's national teams because it's an interesting month of January. The men's team has a couple of friendlies in the state of Florida, Fort Lauderdale and Orlando, coming up. I'm hoping to pop down maybe to Orlando and catch the.
I'm going.
Are you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, maybe
we can
I'll
carpool if you like.
Oh, go. All right. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And the women don't have any matches, but they do have a very interesting thing going on right now, which is Emma Hayes has convened the camp with not only half of the players who played on the Olympic team not in camp for various reasons, injuries and playing internationally and so forth, but she's also brought in a futures roster of young players who could wind up in the future, thus the name, becoming key members in the U.S. women's national team. And there are some local connections with the futures roster. 14 professionals and 10 college players are on the list. One USL Super League player is on the list in the futures roster, Brooklyn goalkeeper Niku Purcell. Other, I'll call it local connections because there are some FSU players and former FSU players. You've got defender Heather Gilchrist, midfielder Taylor Huff, and Una McCormack, and FSU forward Jordan Dudley. But a very local connection with Jacksonville native former Bulls star and Florida Elite player Avery Patterson has been invited into this camp. And I want to get both of your takes on this. And we can start with the men or the women, wherever you want. To me, the women's story is kind of the more interesting one right now. Tony, this is something that's happened in the past, but it's happening again. And with this kind of local connection and a look to the future and a new coach, it's exciting.
It's happening. It's brilliant. It's happened before, and it's definitely going to happen again, right? So we know that, Avery's amazing. This is going to be a good camp and great experience, et cetera. But there's a lot of local talent that's getting really good eyeballs right now, and really, it's an exciting time, I think, for both sides, men and women. But I'll let Mauricio speak more. He's on the front of the player evaluation and that sort of thing. So I'm as a fan, I'm just super stoked.
Yeah, well, the Futures Camp, is, as you mentioned, it's happened before, but she's taken a book off of youth national team future camps. So they're currently right now on the men's side and on the women's side, a total of 9 players on our current senior roster that came through what they will call Futures Camp from the U15, 16, and 17, the youth group. So these are players that are not competing against, they're not in international tournaments, but they get brought in because they've been recognized. Maybe they're undersized, they're late developers, and what's been identified, especially with the size of our country and the population, that we're missing a lot of players. Right, we have this core, and then we have this discovery players. But what are we doing with these discovery players? Yeah, they're pretty good, but this is the solution to what are we doing with them? Mm-hmm. Well, let's bring them in. Let's bring them into a camp. Let's have them train side by side, almost as a B national team, and potentially, because you're missing a couple players, as you mentioned, this might be a C or a D national team. But if you put them in that environment, someone will rise, and you're giving them an opportunity. What I love about this story is the Brooklyn FC goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. Right? We were talking about in these new discovery camps and potential future camps, is a current U.S. national team staff and Emma Hayes and her staff, are they looking at the Super League as a valuable league, as a league that adds value to the landscape of soccer? And clearly they are, right? If they're identifying these players, not just in the NWSL college system and internationally, Super League is now part of that fabric. And, we don't know where it's going to go. But the fact that currently in the first 6 months of the league, we have a player get called into that environment, I think speaks well to the level of what we should expect to come. It's not there yet, but what we should expect to come going forward.
By the way, this is not necessarily to say that Niku Purcell is the best player in the Super League, but she fits a profile that they're looking for, which is a young player. She's only 21, and somebody who they think can develop into a potential future women's national team player.
In the position that we talked about last semester, because our long-term senior women goalkeeper has retired, and we really haven't seen who's going to take the reins. Anyone else has really just been on the bench for the national team. So it's a good opening opportunity to bring in. As you mentioned, sometimes it's not even the best player in the league. It's a need, it's a positional need, and it's a time frame. So being under 21 years old.
We should be known for our keepers, and I'm sort of flummoxed that we I think both sides could use some more clarity at keeper.
Yeah, I no doubt about it. In fact, I think, and we can talk about that as far as the men are concerned, that's the number one question right now, is what's going to happen. Matt Turner has been the guy holding down that spot for quite a while. Zach Steffen has had some opportunities as well. But you think back in the history of the last 40 years of U.S. men's soccer, almost always been strong in goal.
Yeah. Where is Matt Turner now?
He's at Crystal Palace. He's on the bench at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting more minutes than Matt Turner.
Yeah,
come on, we're gonna have to
figure in our five-a-side.
We're gonna really our five-a-side in the office hallway. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out something. I think.
Yeah, I think that's why this camp is interesting with Zach Steffen, because he got hurt the last call up, and he actually had to leave midway through the camp. And something that Pochettino has said when he came on. I know things shift a little bit, but it's going to be people in form. And Zach Steffen last year was the best goalkeeper in MLS, and he's active and he's playing, and Matt Turner isn't. So
here are the goalkeepers, by the way, in camp for the men as we kind of transition over to that side. You mentioned Zach Steffen, Patrick Schulte from Columbus Crew, Drake Callender with Inter Miami, and Matt Fries with NYCFC. So you've got 4 keepers in camp right now. I think that tells you something that
it's like Everton. We always have 2 on the bench for no reason except that we don't have anything else.
And also because this isn't a true international break right now at all. Those who are playing, not just keepers, but in other positions, who are playing in the Premier League or playing in Germany or playing in Spain or Italy, what have you, aren't necessarily in this. So you start going through the roster that you have within this this cycle, and there are a lot of names. They'll list them with caps and starts, or in there. There's a lot of zeros on this list in terms of people who have not been capped yet for the U.S. and almost all are MLS players with one unattached player listed.
Out of contract, yeah. I mean, he'll be signed.
He will
coming up. I mean, one player that I think it's worth keeping a look at is John Token. He was one of the standouts in the Olympics. Left back. We really don't have an alternative for a left back after his name's escaping me now. Jedi. Yeah. We don't have an alternative. Yeah. It's always been Serginho Dest. Go to the left,
Everton product.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, always connected. Yeah. But John Token actually he's with the Red Bulls, and he was one of the standouts, young player, left-footed. I think he's gonna make the jump quite well when he does make that jump.
Did you see the signing of this Matko Miljevic?
That's the unattached player, right?
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, yeah, the one that got kicked out for fighting, and that's an amazing story. I had to look up, because we have such a great, sort of Bosnian, Croatian, Albanian, sort of pool. I had to make sure that he wasn't from here, but he's Miami, so he's Florida. But what a story that is. I would love for him to for Mr. Unattached to make it.
To become attached to at some point.
That would be brilliant.
All right, that is sort of a quick look, and we'll continue to cover more about what's happening with the U.S. men's and women's national teams for sure. We want to remind you the tickets for Sporting Jack's inaugural 2025-2026 USL Super League season are on sale now. Season tickets start as low as just $10 per game for students, $12 for supporters, and $15 for general admission. There are reserve, premium, and field side seating also available. Join the movement by securing your season tickets today and receive a limited edition inaugural season scarf. It won't last long. Act fast and be part of her story. SportingJacks.com/tickets. We also remind you to join us on TV and radio, Saturdays at noon on NBC 12 for the Sporting Jacks Report before Premier League coverage, although this weekend no Premier League games. We'll get into that in a moment. And you can join us every Tuesday at 6 on radio for the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour on 1010 a.m. or online at 1010xl.com. Let's talk a little high school soccer. We're starting to get into this sort of the mid-stretch run here. This week in Jacksonville for Duval County schools, the Gateway Conference Tournament underway. And one of the teams that is enjoying their best season in years is the Wolfson Wolfpack boys soccer team. And I was out at training with them on Monday. They have lost just one game so far this year. That was to Mander, the number one team
That's incredible.
in our area, and only drawn twice. So they're winning games. They won their opening round game in the Gateway tournament over Englewood, and then played Sandalwood in the second round last night as we're recording this. And I got an email from their head coach, Riley Quigley, who described things this way. I'm just going to read it. A super physical, tough battle that resulted in a 0-0 at the end of regular time. Extra time for the tournament is 2 10-minute halves, and then if still tied, moves on to penalties. In the first overtime, Sandalwood scored 8 minutes in. Wolfson then received a second yellow, resulting in a red card. With 2 minutes left in the second half, Wolfson, with only 10 men, scored an equalizing goal, sending the game into PKs, the second half of the extra time. Wolfson boys took PKs first and ended up winning 5-3 to advance to the Gateway Conference Championship at Mandarin Friday night. It may already have been played by the time you hear this. Unfortunately...
people are hearing it today.
Many are.
I'm sure they're getting tickets right now.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Coach Quigley says they suffered too many injuries in the game, so they're kind of limping into the championship game without 7 or 8 of the starters, but they will not be going out without a fight. The boys are hungry. So
I've seen Mandarin play this year. We saw them at the Holiday Cup, and they're pretty amazing.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, so Wolfson's gonna need all that grit. But I will say also, Wolfson is one Matt. I did see him play last year, so they must have really improved. Now they. It was a district game against my Andrew Jackson, so I still had some players, some student athletes that I coached in the match last year, and Wolfson worked them. But I did not see that team as a competitor to be in the final of the Gateway. And hold on, just one last thing is I am giving credit potentially to, and I know Quigley's done an amazing job, but that Landon-Wolfson pipeline over the last decade, there has been a real push. Instead of everyone from Landon going to Stanton or Paxson, I think more kids,
when they launched that IB program.
Right, exactly. And I think there's more kids now going to Wolfson than the other two. And it's a real success story for that school.
Well, I will say this too. Having been to some sporting events at Wolfson, I think in terms of like per capita or per pound, probably the best student involvement. I mean, you get great student involvement at places like Creekside and Bartram and some of the other schools that have the big numbers. But in terms of capacity, Wolfson has great student support for the teams there.
It's that cool ass mid-century building.
Yeah,
and there's another one. I think Westside is like that too. And shout out to their coach. They have a woman that's amazing coach there at Westside. Much harder to get. Students to go to the West Side.
Yeah,
but,
well, let's hear from some of the Wolfson players, starting with the captain, Vaughn Granada. We talked about them having to deal with adversity, and Granada says he really likes how that team tends to respond when the going gets tough.
Well, right before break, unfortunately, I got injured for the first 3 games, so right before break, so I had a lot of time to rest. But I think the team carried on. We we won our games. We won tie, but I think we'll keep improving. After this break, we just want to keep that first momentum that we had the first half of the season. Before, like any injuries, we got like 3 players injured before, but I think we're all starting to come back slowly. The rest of the season, I think we'll have a really good shot at possibly keeping our 1 loss. I think we'll do good.
Obviously, you learn a lot from any game. What did you learn from the 1 loss this year?
From the 1 loss, Mandarin. I know a lot of people at Mandarin. I think not to underestimate them, but not to go in with like a mentality that they're so good in your head. That like threw us off. I feel like we were all like, oh, they're undefeated. We've lost to Mandarin before, previous years. I think that all translating into our head before the game, and we just got into our heads.
Make them beat you, don't beat yourself.
Yeah, I think we beat ourselves for sure. That in the first half it was 2-0, and then the rest of the second half we just broke down, I would say.
We'll see if that gets put into practice with them being undermanned coming up on Friday. Leading goal scorer James O'Neill has 17 goals so far this year. And I asked him if he expected this kind of success from his team this season.
Yes, sir. We knew we had a great team, and now we're just displaying all of our skills on the field.
What's been working for you so far this year?
So far, our attack has been awesome. Our midfield has been able to feed the ball up to our attackers, and we can just get it done from there.
Yeah, you got 1 loss so far this year, and you've been able to kind of roll. You're certainly putting up some goals this year.
Absolutely.
Do you guys go out with the mentality of trying to like strike early and make a difference in the game early on?
Yes, sir. So my personal philosophy is I always try to get a goal in the first 10 minutes and really just surprise the other team and let them know what they're in for.
All right, that is the leading goal scorer, James O'Neill. Midfielder Rafael Ecker is one of the juniors on the team. This is a senior class, by the way, that's been playing together basically for the last 4 or 5 years. So they have progressed and gotten better and better as they've gone on. Ecker is one of the juniors on the squad, and I asked him what the key to the season has been for the Wolfpack.
Honestly, for our team, I think it's just we've started really, really strong. Every single game, first 15 minutes, we're getting in a goal, 2 goals. Honestly, it's just the momentum to start the game, and we keep that going throughout the game. And once you get the lead, you hold on to that, you win the games.
James was talking about how much you guys like playing together. Good team camaraderie. That's something usually you have to kind of work to maintain. What do you guys do to make sure everybody is having a positive outlook?
Well, we always talk before and after each game, and we have a group chat together where we chit-chat about all the games and everything that's been going on, and we just tight-knit group, you know.
How much do you guys talk about other soccer in your group chat or just in your sort of daily life?
Yeah, we talk about like many different soccer leagues around the world, like Premier League, all the games going on, like Inter Milan versus AC Milan going on right now. I was just talking with one of my friends before this. Talk about soccer throughout all our daily lives.
When you're in it like that, and that's part of your daily life, it seems like that sort of thing helps on the pitch too, because you guys you're seeing the game, you're watching, you're following, you're seeing what the pros are doing, that sort of thing, and it can carry you.
Yeah, of course. Watching professional play is one of the best ways to improve. Honestly, watching how the pros do it and how they respond to any situation, that can convert to anything on the field, from like in the midfield turning, playing it out to the wingers, any combination play you see, that can all translate.
So what's your expectations here for the rest of the year?
Rest of the year, we want to win districts. We want to win it all here. We're going to take it through, and we're going to win.
It has been at least a decade since Wolfson has won the district. Tony, you coached high school soccer. When you hear kids talking about being immersed in the game.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing, and the just listening to the sort of clarity there. A lot of times in high school, you talk to a high school student, it's like, it's like it's hard to get anybody to get anything out of them. Those guys are focused. Yep. Yeah, they're ready. They're ready. I fancy their chances if they can hang. They're really up against it with Mandarin, but weirder things have happened.
Yeah, Bulls, of course, would be the obstacle in district. The Gateway Conference, a separate challenge, so they have a chance to win a couple of things here this season.
Is it at where's Friday's match?
At Mandarin.
Okay, because before the Gateway's finals been at Losco before, but it's at their home.
I believe so.
Okay,
I believe so.
We'll check it out.
Yeah, and in terms of getting the,
because I might go.
All right.
Well,
okay.
Friday night
with Tony.
Lights. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm. I'll wear my scarf.
Mauricio, you have obviously when you were a college coach. Attended and scouted a lot of high school. when you hear that kind of attitude around a team, what does that tell you about what's happening with a program?
Well, there's really good culture, and oftentimes, as a recruiter and as a college coach or whatever it might be, you're looking for players that come from healthy cultures, not just the kumbaya kind of culture, which is nice and it's great, but the competitive culture as well. And what you hear on the tone of their voice is just confidence. So you want players that are confident in what they do, not overly arrogant. There's a fine line kind of right in between there, but it sounds like they're a team that over the years. It's like, they're not an overnight sensation. There have been building blocks over the years. And you have now juniors and seniors that have endured a little bit, have gone through some struggle and obstacles, and now they're reaping the benefits by sticking together. And oftentimes in this era and this generation, that's rare to find people that stick together through the obstacles, and that's what it should look like, that you stick together your freshman, sophomore year, you get rid of some bad apples, possibly, I'm not speaking, specifically, but then you get to this point, you're like, oh, how are we 12-1? And you hear one of the young men going like, we knew we were this good. Maybe you didn't, but we did.
And that's the thing too, that momentum, because I guarantee you there was probably multiple teams that they've beaten for the first time in a long time, right? Like Inglewood's no joke. That's a good, sort of in the middle of the pack club, but one that can
beat
give
them back-to-back games, by the way.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm going to go to that match.
It's a good story for sure. All right, let's remind you that the membership at Sporting Jacks is also an opportunity for you. If you're not ready just yet to pop on season tickets, but you want to stay connected, become a member. It's absolutely free. Just go to sportingjacks.com. You get discounts on Sporting Jacks official club merchandise. You get invitations for insider events, chances to win special prizes and experiences, and you get that highly anticipated Sporting Jacks email newsletter. Just go to sportingjacks.com to sign up. All right, no games this weekend in the Premier League, but a pretty busy next week in the Premier League. Let's go around the table. What match is everybody looking forward to the most? Tony.
There are a lot of good ones. Which one are you not looking forward to? Well, we do have a new head coach at West Ham.
Yep.
Yeah, he is
confirmed.
He is confirmed. He's back, and that was quick too. It's like one in, one out. And I've always been wondering what Graham Potter was going to be doing, because he took a bit of a year hiatus from after the Chelsea collapse or the carousel. Probably not his fault, but there's a bit of lack of patience. Arsenal Tottenham. That's the rivalry, right? That's the London rivalry right there.
By the way, West Ham Fulham for the first match for
another
the new manager.
Double London derby.
Yeah.
Derby.
It's gonna be a busy weekend in London. But I always love. But I think to me the game that kind of stands out is Nottingham Forest and Liverpool, just because of what Nottingham Forest is doing.
Yeah. We talked about this a bit.
Let's go Forest.
Yeah. Come
on.
Part of this is, and when we talked about the beginning of the season, what team would take the biggest step forward, there's a little bit of non-scientific in this with me. I didn't recall this, but I was my father passed away about 6 years ago, and before he passed away, and this is stay with me on this story, I recorded a little something so his grandkids, who either weren't old enough to really get it or who hadn't been born, as is in the case of my daughter, could see and hear something about him talking about his life and so forth. One of the things he was really into was genealogy, especially later in the life, he and his brother both. And we can trace back the Pepper lineage to somewhere in the Nottingham Forest area.
Cool.
So that's a little bit of we go back to Danish Vikings if you go further back. But the bulk of it.
You should stop at Nottingham Forest.
Well, yeah, I don't know. The Denmark national team.
We already get the Viking vibe.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. But Nottingham Forest area. So I kind of always had a sort of a soft spot for Forest.
We got to get you back, because City Grounds is an amazing place.
Yeah, you were
watch
there.
A match.
Was it last year?
No, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. But one of the things so Clough, obviously, I personally feel like he's obviously one of the funniest soccer people of all time, but he's an amazing coach. He did things with Forest that no one's ever done in the rest of the Premier League, and with the European Championships. Can I flex for a minute?
Go do it.
Okay, I'll flex.
I just flexed with Danish Vikings. So go for it.
No, it's amazing, and we have to get you to Nottingham. So, but I had dinner yesterday and I was telling a Clough story, and that someone had told me, and this person had a story about Sean Dyche in Clough. So because Dice was at Nottingham, and he picked up the phone, was ringing in the dressing room one day, and it was Clough, clearly, and he's like, "Bring me some tea," and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Bring me some tea." He's like. He's like, who's this? Like, just playing with him, right? Like, because Clough clearly didn't know who was on the other end, and Clough is like, do you know who I am? And Dice is like, do you know who I am? He's like, no. He's like, Dice says, good, and hung up.
That's a great story.
Every Clough story is just amazing, but yeah, I heard that one last night at dinner.
Both Forest and Liverpool are the two, I think we can say, the two biggest stories of the year in the Premier League for different reasons.
The surprising one. Liverpool's surprising for, after an era with Jurgen Klopp, but not in Forest right now. Everyone's just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and he hasn't, and they continue to get better and better.
And again, when you take on Liverpool, that's a possibility, but they're Nottingham Forest on a roll right now, 5 straight wins. You start to look ahead at what's the rest of their schedule. They do have some tough matches coming up, but boy, they're sitting in third right now, level on points with second place Arsenal. And who would have thought that when the season began?
Yeah,
no one. I don't think there are any. Unless people just bet on random stuff.
That's the thing, though. It just keeps going. A lot of times, you can come out strong. Injuries kind of take you out. Malaise. The amount of matches, people get injured, but they are just continuing to roll.
Well, the interesting thing, I think the underlying story there, they're tied with Arsenal for points. Remember, Edu left Arsenal as their sporting director and went over to oversee the entire conglomerate of the the owner, the Greek owner, Marinakis, and Nottingham Forest being one of them, right? So now it's almost like, as far as the Premier League is concerned, it's Nottingham Forest versus Arsenal, with Edu being the architect of one and now being the architect of the other. So now this roster was built before he arrived. He's kind of come in like mid-season,
which says a lot about Nuno, who's just absolutely smashing.
And Nuno was a bit of a failure. He went to Tottenham for a bit, right? He was at Wolves, and then went to Tottenham. Short-lived at Tottenham, and then he was kind of forgotten. And now, look what he's doing at Wolves.
Meanwhile, Liverpool, sorry, Tony, 8 points clear of Arsenal right now with a game in hand. They are rolling right now. FA Cup this weekend as well. So a lot of soccer in a cold stretch in Jacksonville. Just settle in next to the fire, turn on the TV, or go visit with Tony and go down to Mandarin and check out some action on Friday night.
I'll put some scarves in the car.
There we go.
If you see me there, ask me for a scarf.
Perfect. All right, that'll do it for this installment of the Sporting Pod. Best one of the year so far.
Yeah, easily.
Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your soccer fan friends, and to subscribe on any of the places you find your favorite podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. For Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz and the boys from Wolfson Boys Soccer, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for listening to The Sporting Pod.